Your Honor, at this time, the state rests.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, with the state resting, we're going to go ahead and adjourn for the evening. Just because the state has rested does not mean that all of the evidence is in this case necessarily. Again, you are not to discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anybody else, or go looking for any information about the case, or allow anybody to approach you about the case, or discuss the case even in your presence of hearing until you've heard all of the evidence in the case. You have heard the closing arguments of counsel and received the final charge of the court. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjourn for the evening. We're going to come back. It's going to shift a little bit tomorrow because there's some matters we're going to have to address before the court. We're going to start at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So at 10 o'clock, we'll start back up with the evidence in the case. Again, with the instructions I've given you, have a good evening. Thank you for your attention here in the Superior Court of Glenn County. We'll see you in the morning.
All rise for the jury.
All right, so let's take a short recess. I'm going to try to address at least a few things this evening, and then we've got a little bit of time tomorrow morning to address a few more things, whatever may come up. Also tomorrow morning, just as a heads up, what I normally do with defendants with regard to their right to testify in this case, I generally put them up with their lawyer and walk them through their right and what their decision is to ensure that whatever that decision is has been made voluntarily. Normally I do that before we get into the defendant's case. So I'll plan to do that unless I hear from counsel and you wish to do it differently, but I do like to get, before we get into the case, what the defendant's decision is with regard to their right to testify. Okay, so we can wait until tomorrow to work through the details of that. I just want to make sure that we're clear about it. What I'd like to do is need to move through a couple things. I'd like to take any motions or other matters that may be appropriately before the court with the state having rested. I've got at least 3 matters that Mr. Goff has before the court, 2 motions for reconsideration, and the motion with regard to the exclusion of certain individuals within the court. Let's take a short recess, and are the parties prepared to move forward with motions with the state having rested? Or do you wish to address that in the morning?
Speaking for Greg McMichael, in the morning, I don't think it would take very long. I could do it today, but a night's rest and a 10-minute argument, maybe 15.
Yeah, I just don't want to push too far into the morning, is the thing.
I'm at the court's discretion, whichever you prefer.
All right, let's go ahead and do those motions tomorrow morning. Let me go ahead and address then other matters that are before the court. We're going to just take a short recess. I'll address the 2 motions for reconsideration, Mr. Goff's other motion that was filed this morning, then any other matters that may be before the court, and then tomorrow morning I'll go ahead and address any motions appropriate after the state is rested, as well as make sure that I'm clear, or everyone's clear, I should say, on how we're going to address the defendant's right to testify and make sure that's appropriately on the record. All right, let's take 10 minutes.